Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tom. I'm the co-founder of a community called the Confidant Community. So in this community, we promote the principle of sharing homes happily with between landlords and tenants, travel cultures freely, and make friends globally. So today I'd like to take this opportunity to share one true story happens just a few days ago. In the last 5 years, this is actually our first time evict one tenant, unfortunately. However, the way how we handle it is a bit, I will say, different, which I like to share with everybody today, and also like to basically share a few things we learned through this process. So without further ado, let's start. First of all, I like to give everybody a quick rundown what's going on. So this gentleman, let's call his name as Jesse, and he came to us about a year ago to rent a room in a shared accommodation. He basically was coming with his parents, and parents basically saying, "Well, Jesse is first time renting a renter, never renting any place before. They like to encourage their son to be independent and try out on his own. So this is the first time. We thought, well, the kid looks decent, family looks very decent family, so why not? Let's give it a try. So Jesse moved in a few months later, things start to uh, go bad basically. What happened is he wasn't really cleaning up after himself, so it's quite messy. It's a big problem for shared accommodation when you have roommates or shared common area. When you don't clean up, it causes a bit of concern for the roommates for obvious reason. And the other thing also is he started brought in street prostitutes, and which caused a big concern for all the roommates. And one last thing, which actually is the last straw, basically um, crush the camel back, is he starts smoke weed inside the house, which we have very strict policy that there's no smoke allowed. Long story short, we issued quickly 48 hours eviction notice. Well, then Jesse started to obviously before that we have a few warnings. We talk to their parents. There are all kind of excuses back and forth. Nothing really get resolved. So in the end, we issued 48 hours notice. By the end of August, the time reached 48 hours. They are still there. So we went with the movers and start to take their stuff out, and then obviously replace the lock after. So anything happens after will become trespassing. And for the fact, because Alberta Tenancy Act only handles homes and suite, and room renting is basically belongs to contracting law. So this is basically how we consulted our law advisor and followed up properly. Long story short, after Jesse moved out, obviously the feeling is very hostile. They are saying, well, you guys threw our stuff out and can't do that. And we also like to call police this and that. So it's things getting pretty heated. In this situation, landlord normally has two things to do. Number one, we go to court, we fight to the last minute, this and that. And this is kind of more common ways of doing things. But also there's another way of doing it. So what we did is we send a quick email to the mom and basically say, well, although the whole process was a bit unfortunate unfortunate, but we do appreciate in the whole process the rent was being paid on time. It is, after all, the first time renting for by Jesse. So we do feel they are trying their best, and I do want to let them know that we appreciate their efforts, and also we like to make the understanding that in the whole process we did work together to get this resolved, and there's no question we are going to refund their money back. The very last month, which is September, also the security deposit, although we are actually could losing some money. So this is the sort of solution we took, and mom saw this is actually out of her surprise because she is basically charged, fully charged, trying to take on a big fight with us. I didn't realize we actually did this way, and I actually personally follow up with a quick phone call with her. I say, listen, madam, I understand you tried your best. We are trying to working together. Unfortunately, it's not working out, but no problem. It is, our property may not be the best fit for your son, but there might be some other people's property, and I hope this experience for him is also a good learning experience. He can learn and grow from now on. And here is your money back, and thank you very much. So that's how we handle it. And now I like to basically want to share a few things. I will say three things I learned through this process. The very first thing I will say is, well, I will say one thing in screening the tenants. I will say it is very, very important. You screen the tenants very thoroughly and also pay extremely caution to the situation like this. When a parent or parents accompanying their kid to find a place, to me, we learned from this process is it could be a very troublesome sign, because when a children in his 20s still have their parents do every single thing for him, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to take on their parents' role, trying to teach them what they do. It's just too late. So I guess one simple lesson we learned is whenever you see parent or parents accompany the kids come to you and want to renting for the kids, and the children itself or the young adult themselves did not come to you rent by their own, that is a big red flag. That's really the lesson number one we learned. So regardless what happens, if in the future any case in that nature, I will recommend everybody take very cautious step forward, and which is the lesson we learned, number one. And the second lesson I will say is why we take this little bit uncommon approach is because if you treat your investment as a business, the number one business need to pay attention is called relationship. I'm not saying we have to build a strong relationship with bad tenants like this, but here's the question. When you start getting into all the fight unnecessarily, not only you waste your time or energy, and it's a big drain on your power, which you can channel to the right and good source. It also causes very troublesome negative relationship spread. What I mean by that is some of you may heard this is so-called 1 to 150 rule, which basically means one person has at least 150 people they are closely associated. In other words, if you do good with this one people, you actually did good likely with 150 people. But if you do bad with this one people, you actually hurt, or you could cause 150 people dislike you. So it is not that one people really is the concern, it's that 150 people behind him is the big concern. Do you want to pay that big price by teach this one bad guy a lesson, which really is not your job to teach him a lesson in the first place? So by fighting hard with the people in this kind of situation, by trying to teach him a lesson, you bring potentially 150 more enemies towards you. So that if you think about a relationship, if you think about your investment as a business, it is a big no-no. That's why we take a different approach. Instead of make him into our enemy, we at least make him is not hating us. Because we, by demonstrating this, is another way to maintain and protect more 150 possible relationships down the road. And the very last thing I like to share is so-called three goals. What I mean by three goals is we have a very strong principle we follow in Confidant community is so-called good property, good tenants, and good service are the three strong fundamental pillars to support the best long-term real estate investment. In that way, if you have a good property to start with and you find a great tenants to matching this good property, and then you provide good service, you will have very likely a good outcome going for the long term. So in this particular case, it's really our mistake to take this wrong tenants into this place. So by fighting with him, it doesn't really gain anything to us. The best way instead is to learn from this process and then move on. So based on this principle, nothing wrong with him. It's really something we did wrong. So in that way, we make sure, learn the lesson and move on quickly instead of getting into some messy fighting for the sake of, yeah, he is bad, we are not. No. Admit it, we did a bad job at the beginning. I did a bad job by picking the wrong tenants, period. Make the mistake, admit the mistake, learn from it, move on instead of dragging here forever. So here you have it, the process how we handle this bad tenant instead of fighting with them with nails, tools, which we did in the past years and doesn't really enjoy it. And we actually take a different approach. And we also share the three reasons why we do that. And number one, we learned when kids, young adults did not come with themselves by themselves, but with their parents is a big red flag. So when we do the tenant screening, in that situation, need to be very, very cautious. Number two, 150 rule. It is not matter that much you have this one people, one bad tenants, you fight or not, but they could make a lot more damage by causing 150 of their associates, which from relation perspective, you like to not get into in the first place if you don't have to. And the very last one is three goods: good property, good tenants, good service, which are the three fundamentals of a successful rental investment. In this case, we made mistake, we accept it, we learn from it, we move on quickly, instead of trying to point a finger to the others and tell them that's their problem. So that's it. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share with you, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.